Thanks for checking out this movie review video. This is for the 2022 film Crimes of the Future, and because it's a new film, this is a no spoiler review, although like thematic stuff, subtext stuff, I'll talk about a bit at the end, so if you don't want to get any of that, you can quit before that comes up. The new Cronenberg film, I ended up renting it on Vudu because Vudu at the moment has it for like $5 to rent. It was definitely worth watching. I've seen people going both ways on this, really enjoying it, really not enjoying it. And I can see where people really enjoy it. I can see where people really didn't enjoy it. I quite enjoyed it. It is a good film. It's not like a phenomenal film, but it's Cronenberg being Cronenberg, and I love it when Cronenberg bees Cronenberg. Cronenberg is being Cronenberg. Sorry about that. Written and directed by David Cronenberg, obviously, who did things like Videodrome, The Brood, Rabid, you know. You know all the stuff. Videodrome, by the way, I need to rewatch that. I actually have the DVD from a long time ago in my collection over here. I need to rewatch that and do a review on it. He wrote and directed it. Bigger names in the film include Viggo Mortensen, Kristen Stewart, who reportedly ended up replacing Natalie Portman, who was supposed to be in that Kristen Stewart role, which I wish we had gotten Natalie Portman instead, and Scott Speedman. Those are the bigger names. Mortensen apparently had actually suffered a quad injury, so he was kind of unable to stand for long periods of time. So Cronenberg had to kind of work with that. And if you know that information going into the film, or find that information out and think back on the film if you've already seen it, you can tell that like he's sitting or laying down the overwhelming majority of the time in the film. So, but I think if you didn't know that he had an injury, it wouldn't really bother you that much. Like the film didn't really suffer because of it. So Cronenberg did a good job kind of getting around that. The script was actually adapted from a 2002 project that was in development called Painkillers. And apparently, this is a rumor, I don't know if it's true or not, Nick Cage had been attached to the project at that point. Would be very interested to see this film with Nick Cage in the Viggo Mortensen role. That would be something. So quick synopsis, I don't want to give too much away, but it's this kind of like post-apocalyptic dystopian future that the film's set in, where people have evolved a certain amount. A lot people are getting tumors, so like people are getting these situations where new growths are happening within their body. And there's kind of a movement of people who have decided, oh, you know, this is part of our lives now, so maybe we could do something with this. So there's some people who view these tumors as kind of like natural and they're fine. There are people who are still viewing them as these are bad things that we need to get rid of. And it leads to this whole like interesting culture involving like pain and pleasure. It's got a Hellraiser vibe to it for that reason, but it's very Cronenberg at the same time because he's always done this very big kind of gross body horror stuff, and there's plenty of that big gross body horror stuff in this, including really good practical effects set pieces in it that I mean, I think that's kind of my favorite thing about the film is you kind of never know what you're going to end up seeing next, mainly from a practical effects like world building standpoint, but also from how the characters act and interact with each other. Like, you truly don't know where this film's going to go. Like, if anyone's out there like, I guessed what's going to happen with this film, I'd be like, you're lying. But anyway, the beginning music for the film is extremely ominous. And that's something I wanted to talk about real quick, is that in general, the score is very well composed. There are those moments where it's very overbearing, though. If you know me, you know that's something I harp on, is if it feels like at times the filmmaker's screaming at you with the use of the score because they're cranking it up too loud. I don't like that. I think it's very unnecessary, and I'm glad we've kind of gotten away from that for the most part with film. Not too many of those moments, but there are a few of those moments. I kind of give Cronenberg a little bit of a pass on that because he is an old school director. He's been doing this for a long time, so for him to kind of like change how he does stuff now, I don't really expect that. So it's, you know, is what it is. He gets a little leniency. Things get strange fast. Then they get dark and messed up very quickly after getting strange. Yes, this film is dark. It is strange. It is gross. It is weird. All the interesting words you can end up throwing at it. And for all those reasons, I think that's why a lot of people end up not liking the film. The other thing is, it's not a super fast moving film. The pacing isn't the best, but that kind of little bit of mystery and not knowing what's going to be happening and kind of exploring this world that you're not familiar with, that's what personally kept me very invested in the film and made me feel like the time went a lot faster. I think it was like an hour and 47 minutes or something total with credits. So, yeah, it's not super short, but I didn't think it really felt that long. But then again, I'm also saying that the pacing wasn't the best either, so I don't know. Maybe this is just a personal thing. Plenty of weird quasi-alive practical effects. It's kind of cool, but it's kind of gross at the same time. And I love that that's what Cronenberg has always done. Cool, but gross at the same time. Like, you're intrigued, you're interested, you're drawn in, but you're also feeling a bit disgusted and repelled at the same time. And it's not just those kind of alive practical effects that show up that are very odd that I love in this, but the characters, the way they interact with each other, the society and how society interacts within this film, like all those things feel the very same way. Like, you're kind of intrigued and drawn in, but you're also a bit repulsed and disgusted. And for that reason, I really like the film. In addition to not emoting with her face as usual, Kristen Stewart mumbles and changes her speaking volume quite a bit, making it hard to watch. I'm not a fan of Kristen Stewart's performances. I'm sure she's a fine person. I don't have anything personally against her. It's just, I never have enjoyed her performances because she does not emote with her face. That is the same reason I don't like Richard Gere. And I think there's like one or two others I can't think of at the moment. But her line delivery is fine. You know, she can remember the lines. But when you add the extra level, like in this film, of mumbling a lot and changing your volume of speaking so erratically within like the same, stint of line delivery, it's very annoying. It's hard to hear what you're saying. And I wonder if this was her choice or it was Cronenberg's choice. Either way, it was a bad choice. It was a terrible choice. Wish Natalie Portman was in it instead, but I'm sure there will be people who like Kristen Stewart's performance. I just did not. There's a dark, gritty, post-apocalyptic aesthetic to the film. It's very kind of like gritty, dirty, dark, like everything there. It looks industrial, like post-apocalyptic isn't industrial. It's not pretty at all. It's just so drab. It just makes you feel like the world is kind of like hopeless, which I think there is an aspect of that that's important for the actual underlying themes of the film. The future is pointless. I think that's a little bit, a little bit of, no, a lot of bit of a point here. Cronenberg really likes to bake sexuality into just about every film that he does, and he usually pairs it with some people, usually with some sexual things that people don't usually find sexual. This goes with that whole like intrigued but repulsed thing. I'm not going to say too much because if you're going to watch the film, which I recommend, you should be surprised by things, but there are like sexual elements to it where you're just like, why is this being sexualized? That feels weird. But I think that's kind of the point, to like make you uncomfortable with it and then start to, on your own, question, well, why would that matter that that's being sexualized in this film? Like, this is a different society. This is in the future. And this is how they are sexual with each other. This is a sexual situation. It wouldn't be considered that in a societal standpoint now, but in the context of the world created here, that's how it is. So pretty interesting. That's another thing I find very interesting about this. Another intriguing aspect. It gets progressively more gross, and I can see where people would bail on the film, but I found it very amusing. Those things really do draw me in, like creative grossness, like creative darkness, weirdness, all that stuff has a tendency to really pull me in with film. And that's why I've always been into Cronenberg films, because he does that a lot, like a lot. I already talked about the score being overbearing. The ending does seem a little bit flat. Now, it does say stuff, like it contributes to the overall subtext and themes of the film, and that's fine, but I do think they could have gone a bit bigger with the ending, a bit more impactful with the ending. It's more one of those things where it's like, seems like it ends with a bit of a whimper, and then you think about it and you're like, okay, I get the significance of it, but could we have had it be more entertaining? Just saying. Just the ending portion. Scott Speedman's performance in this is particularly good. Obviously, with the cast, there's good acting, sans Kristen Stewart for me personally, but Scott Speedman really stood out. Like, I've always thought he was a good actor, but in this, I thought he was great. Viggo Mortensen was, really good because you expect that from him. That's all he's delivered. Everyone else did a really good job too. There wasn't anyone who did a poor job, so that was good. There's a point about art and pain that an artist ends up going through in their creative process that I really appreciated in this. I thought that was really interesting. Not going to go any further on that because it will ruin some things about the film, but just know that it's interesting. The film basically says, what if relationship, sexuality, and desire looked totally different? That's one of those things I was talking about where like things that are sexual and sexuality are very different, and it might make you pretty uncomfortable, but I found it intriguing. This film is also a meditation on where humanity could go if it chose to catch up evolutionarily with the progress of our technology. I'm going to say that again, but I'm not going to elaborate on it because I would give things away within the film, but just note this. It's a meditation on where humanity could go if it chose to catch up evolutionarily with the progress of our technology. So kind of like keeping up with how fast our technology moves in essence. And ultimately, it's about the world adults end up choosing for their children and what that means for them and everyone after. And it's usually not a good thing. I don't know if you noticed, but David Cronenberg films usually not ending on high notes. Usually not happy. So you can probably expect that this won't be a very happy film. I will say that this does feel to be a little bit like a companion piece to the film Existenz that he did with Jennifer Jason Leigh and Jude Law. Love that film, by the way. I need to rewatch and review that at some point. I think one of the things that really tied me into that was the design of these practical effects, like living things. It reminded me a lot of some stuff in Existenz, but that'd be a great double feature: Crimes of the Future and Existenz. Just saying. But anyway, those are all my feelings on Crimes of the Future. Out of 5 stars with half stars in play, a very solid 3.5-star rating for me. I was originally thinking 4, but then I thought more about the ending, and I'm like, yeah, the pacing's not the best. The ending's a bit flat. So 3.5 stars. I still recommend it. I still enjoyed it, and I know there will still be people who really don't like it, but go ahead and give me your opinions down here, and we can talk spoilers. That's fine. Spoilers in the comments. Go ahead. Do me a quick favor, though, before you're done with this. Hit subscribe to my channel. It is quick. It's painless. It costs you nothing, and it helps keep me motivated. I appreciate it so, so much. So that would be wonderful. Also, hit the notification bell button because then you'll know when I'm putting up all my new videos, which I'm doing at least 4 a week at this point, which is a lot. Sometimes 6 in a week, like I just did recently. I think the week I'm putting this out, actually, I think I have released 6 at this point. It's a lot, so pay me back by, hitting those things. But regardless, I really do thank you for taking your time to watch this particular video, and until next time, keep it brutal.